In this video series on the Heralds of Galactus, we have spent a lot of time talking about the various characters that have served as heralds to Galactus. Not only are these heralds powerful, but in many ways they're also very cool. But in this video, we're going to shift gears. We're going to shift gears just a little bit to actually look at some of the more strange and interesting characters that have served as heralds to Galactus. This is actually something that I hinted at in the very first video in this series, and I'm pleased to finally be getting back to talking about these characters because they are interesting. And I can tell you that some of the heralds that we're going to talk about are going to surprise you. And to that point, we might as well start with a bang. Did you know that Aunt May was a herald of Galactus? That's right, Peter Parker's elderly Aunt May became a herald of Galactus in the 1980s as part of Assistant Editors Month. This was an event that Marvel used to sponsor back in the day, in which they basically turned over full creative control to the assistant editors and allowed them to basically tell whatever stories they wanted to tell. And in often cases, they were humorous stories. And I can tell you that this one is a humorous story. All of the action actually goes down in Marvel Team Up issue number 137. And in many ways, this issue reads like a promotional piece for Hostess, the baking company. And you'll see what I mean in just a few moments. But this issue opens up with the death of Frankie Ray and a weakened Galactus that is barely able to sustain himself. He travels to Earth to enlist the help of Reed Richards, but unable to find Reed, Galactus stumbles upon a young Franklin Richards who he decides to turn into his herald. But by a strange twist of events, Franklin actually finds himself with Aunt May, who throws herself in front of the power cosmic transfer and emerges as Golden Oldie, heralds of Galactus. Yes, she went by the name of Golden Oldie, if you can believe it. But despite the mishap, Galactus declares that he's hungry and encourages Golden Oldie to find him suitable nourishment to consume. But before she can act, Franklin reaches into his book bag and pulls out a pack of Twinkies and offers them up to Galactus. Galactus poo-poos the idea initially, but upon popping the Twinkies in his mouth, realizes that his energies have been somewhat replenished for the moment. And in an attempt to satisfy his hunger for a longer period of time, Golden Oldie rounds up all of the Twinkies in the world to serve them to Galactus. But upon realizing that all of the Twinkies in the world amounted to nothing more than a light snack, she actually takes off into the cosmos in search of a suitable planet free of life for Galactus to consume. And of course, she stumbles upon the perfect planet, one that is shaped like a Twinkie, created by none other than the Doughboy. Realizing that the Doughboy might be a better herald than she, Golden Oldie convinces Galactus to take him on as his herald and ultimately leads to her being released from service. The cool thing about this issue is that it actually wraps up with Peter Parker, Stan Lee, and Jim Shooter all waking up, realizing that it was just a dream. The next strange herald that I want to talk about is Willie Lumpkin. Unless you are a long-term Fantastic Four fan, the name Willie Lumpkin doesn't mean all that much to you. But if you are a fan of the FF, you probably realize that Willie is the postman for the Fantastic Four. And I told you guys this was going to be strange, but yes, he was made into a Herald of Galactus. And the story for this one is relatively brief, and it's brief because it was literally a single frame in What If issue number 34. In this frame, Willie was imbued with the power cosmic and he hand delivers a letter from Galactus to the Fantastic Four. The letter declares that Galactus is going to eat the Earth tomorrow. And that is the end of Willie Lumpkin as a Heralds of Galactus. Definitely a very, very brief one, but this next one I think is really interesting. And next up is Superman, the Man of Steel. And he became a Herald of Galactus in a rare crossover event that was basically done in a one-shot called Superman Fantastic Four. And it was in this issue that Superman is falsely led to believe that Galactus consumed Krypton. So he crosses over to the main Marvel universe in an attempt to find Galactus. Now, what's really cool here is that Superman acknowledges the existence of the main Marvel universe and Galactus. He also hints at some experts that will assist him with finding Galactus. And of course, we already know who those experts are. It's the Fantastic Four. But the story continues, and it actually picks up with a young Franklin Richards, who is playing with a few action figures from both Marvel and DC. And these figures include Iron Man, Thor, Daredevil, Superman, as well as Batman and Robin. Franklin, for his part, actually acknowledges that the Fantastic Four are also aware of the DC universe and the existence of Superman, just as the Man of Steel makes his appearance on the scene. Things quickly get out of hand as Cyborg Superman also makes an appearance. Superman is imbued with the power cosmic and starts hunting for suitable planets for Galactus to consume. Like most heralds, Superman initially follows the orders of Galactus, which forces the Fantastic Four to team up with Cyborg Superman to stop the destruction of a planet. Thankfully, Superman comes to his senses when Galactus threatens to end the lives of an entire planet that is actually inhibited, and he fights back against Galactus. Through some comic book trickery, the Fantastic Four and a cosmically depowered Superman actually turn the tide on Galactus and force him to retreat. Like the story of Willie Lumpkin and maybe even Aunt May, this next Herald story is also hilarious. And it's hilarious because most things associated with Deadpool are just downright funny. It happens in issue number 883 of Deadpool Team Up. And in this issue, Deadpool walks into a store to buy some guns, and he realizes that he is flat broke. So he tries to drum up some mercenary work from a couple of bad guys, including Magneto and Dr. Doom and Doc Ock, and even Apocalypse himself. Coming up empty on all fronts, he applies for the job of a herald, not even knowing what a herald actually is. And he does it on a virtual bulletin board. And after uttering the word herald, he is whisked away for his interview with Galactus and is hired on the spot. From the looks of it, I'll be honest with you, Deadpool seems to be doing a pretty awesome job of finding planet after planet after planet for Galactus to consume. And his success, if you will, actually draws the attention of the Silver Surfer, who engages him in combat and helps Wade to see that being a herald isn't for him. And the Silver Surfer played this spoiler role for a lot of Heralds of Galactus, and so it was only fitting that we actually see him in this spoof comic, if you will. But in traditional Deadpool fashion, the story actually finishes up on a high note, and it finishes with Deadpool attending a Heralds of Galactus anonymous meeting. This meeting is attended by several Heralds of Galactus that we have actually discussed over the course of this series, including Frankie Ray and Airwalker and Terrax the Tamer, Stardust, and Firelord, just to name a few. While I don't know if I'll do another one of these Heralds of Galactus videos, I can tell you that this has been a fun series to work on. There are a lot of Heralds of Galactus, a lot of really interesting characters, either because they're quirky or super powerful or really cool. But it's been a fun series to work on. And if you haven't seen those previous videos, I definitely want to encourage you to go back and check those out. And if you watched this one and enjoyed this one, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. And if you need to reach out to me, you can do that as well on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.